On this very special episode, we are going to be doing a little bit of a throwback for those of you who have let us know your kind of feedback for the podcast. This is kind of our reaction to that. So we will be doing a episode of Athletes Anonymous Presents After the Buzzer with the OGG crew. So yeah, let's get to that intro music. And welcome back to the podcast. As I stated earlier, we're going back to the old After the Buzzer segment with the boys from Poi N Soy, Nolan Chang, Jared Shirai. Say what's up to the pod, boys.
Buenos dias.
All right, so we are here, and obviously, as the title of our new segment implies, we will be talking about all of the NBA trade deadline deals. So this would be our basketball only segment. Like I said, an experiment we're going to try for at least the next month just to kind of see how this all works out. But, and again, we're back with the OGG crew. Like I said, right? Remember those days? It was just the three of us. And then we added that powerhouse in Jalen. But anyway, we're going to talk about some of the trade deadline deals. I'm going to kind of get you guys' reactions. Obviously, there was a lot. So, you don't got to talk about everything. But, first and foremost, I'm going to get your guys' big time reactions on what I consider to be the mega deal of mega deals. We already talked about the Kyrie Irving trade last week, but I'm going to throw it over to you first, Jared. We did have the Kevin Durant deal. It was a rather large get for the Brooklyn Nets, and then it kind of obviously ended up with Kevin Durant and TJ Warren going to the Phoenix Suns. What is your kind of initial reaction to the team? Do you think that this makes them the top title contenders right now?
I mean, when they're healthy, yeah, I agree. Kevin Durant is still one of the best scorers in the league. I mean, he's 7 feet tall. He's hard to defend. He's always going to get his. And I think that's what they were missing out in Phoenix. In Phoenix, I think the hardest part for me with them was the fact of, you had Devin Booker, you had Chris Paul, but you didn't have anybody. Didn't have anybody. I
thought maybe something got snugged on your.
No, she gripped onto my pants, pull up.
Sorry,
continue, Jared.
No, you're good. I was just like, wait, what's going on? No, but yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what they were missing out in Phoenix. He had the young buck in Devin Booker, who's proved that he can be an all-star caliber player. And then you have Chris Paul, who's Chris Paul. You never know what you're going to get out of it. But then now you have somebody like Kevin Durant, where basically you want to put the ball in his hand as much as possible. I don't know what the chemistry is going to look like because of the way Kevin does play. But I mean, they made it work out in Golden State, where all three players really need to have the ball and score. So I think Chris Paul will do a better job as far as a true point guard in facilitating that offense. On the Brooklyn Nets side of it, though, I think it's just literally what it looks like. We are overhauling our team. We're taking as many picks as possible. We're just trying to build from the ground up. I don't think they win in this trade, in all honesty, for the next 5 years, because you get all those picks, great. But you still have to find the chemistry. They don't have I don't want to say they don't have a superstar, but they don't have a focal point of an offense right now. I think I watched the highlights of last night's match, and Joe Harris. And where is he coming? He's coming off the bench. He's getting points for them and he's coming off the bench. So going forward with that, I don't know where that comes from. Looking at the other teams in that trade, though, the Bucks get Jay Crowder. I mean, that's kind of big for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jay Crowder, you know what Jay Crowder gives. He brings spark, energy, the dog, corner threes. He's a great 3-point shooter and he's a great defender. So, I
Yep.
mean, I know he's getting up there in age, but I feel like that'll give Giannis a little bit of help as far as the defensive end and like finding an open shooter because shooters are far and few on that team right now. I feel like that's where they're kind of struggling. And the Pacers, they get George Hill back. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
George Hill, Ibaka, but I mean, I feel like they have the older pieces, so they have the more experienced pieces, which I feel like they brought those pieces in to help mentor all these young guns, to help them build into their roles and understand where it is, for me at least. So, I mean, I think it does put the Suns back in the top, though. I mean, if they weren't already there, this stuff, adding Kevin Durant, I guess you would say, to any team is kind of going to put them in title contention.
Yep. I'm going to swing it over to you, Nolan. Just kind of based off of what Jared just said, I'm curious for you're looking up and down the Western Conference. Do you think that they are now the title favorites for the Suns? And better yet, I'm going to add another question onto that because we've had the talk on here before. Kevin Durant, top 3 all time. I think we've even talked about Chris Paul at length at some point on this conversation. Or
top 3
on this
small forwards.
Yeah. Sorry.
Wow.
Top 3 small forwards of all time. But I was like, we also kind of talked about Chris Paul at length. There are a lot of people who question whether or not he's like a legitimate top all time player because of his inability to get to that chip. So I'm curious do you think that there's pressure on them to kind of win it this year? Are you giving them a buffer of a couple of years to kind of figure things out? Or is this one of those, like, they got to do it, or, a lot of their legacies take a hit?
They got to do it this year. Suns, thankfully, are in a good enough position where they're going to be a pretty much lock for the playoffs. It is going to be kind of predicated on Durant's health. He is still technically injured, so we'll see when he comes back. I do think that their bench kind of has taken a hit, but with that big 4 that you have in the starting lineup, you can stagger the resting times in a way that it's not going to be that big of a deal. I am interested to see kind of how the chemistry will build with them because Chris Paul, he's an unselfish player, and he's been shown to do so when it matters most with whoever he's paired up with. But you have Booker, who is a young gun who does want the ball in his hands. And now you have Durant, who's kind of like, he's been around the block a long time, and he's always been, for the most part, that guy. So when you have now 2 guys who kind of want the ball, you have Ayton, who just signed this extension, but is expecting to get more touches, even though they have Durant now. You're kind of laying a lot on the line to see that the chemistry is going to swing through in one half of a season. I would give them only a buffer of this half, and hopefully next season is when they decide it, if they bring everyone back, because if they can't get it this season, it's going to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be looked at as a failure. I think the Nets situation was going to be looked at more of a failure for the rest of this season. So if the Suns decide to stick together for that one extra year, I think that would pay off and benefit for them next year, because they're going to at least know how to play off of each other a little more. Statistically, most of them are going to take a hit in some fashion. But I do think that they are the favorites now in the West. But overall, the Nuggets have been rolling, man. I mean, you have Aaron Gordon, who's popping off this season, finally showing some life.
Potential defensive player of the year.
Yeah, since he left Orlando. Jokic is doing Jokic things. Jamal Murray's finding his stride again. You have good other players like MPJ. They just got rid of Bones Highland, which is a little bit of a dig into their backcourt, but
for
overall,
nothing, by the way.
Yeah.
Overall,
they're still going to be rolling with it, and I think it's going to be an interesting. Everyone thinks that the Mavs are going to be the conference final, but when you have teams like the Nuggets and the Suns, it's theirs to lose to get to that Western Conference final. So I'm going to see how this all plays out, especially when Durant comes back healthy. But I definitely think the Suns have a fantastic shot this season.
Okay. That's no, yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. I would say I was going to ask you kind of kind of as a follow up, because you kind of brought up the big three that really never was in Brooklyn. I'm kind of curious, like, do you think that they kind of go down as like one of the biggest all-time failures of like NBA history, as far as like the fact that they really did nothing?
That's hard to say. I think I saw a stat, and I didn't fact check it, so it could be completely off. They only, in the 3 years together overall, they only played 20 full games together, which was a lot to do with injury, the trade issues going in and out of it when they finally got Harden. So I don't know if we can completely consider it a failure, because I don't think they gave it time to actually breathe. But for those three guys who...
Better yet, do you think that they realistically had a shot at doing the thing?
Oh, hell yeah.
All been playing together.
Oh, definitely. You got two guys on there who have championship experience. You have James Harden, who, people give him a lot of crap, but he is a phenomenal talent. He's showing it in like huge strides this season with Joel Embiid and the Sixers, because the Sixers are taking off as well. Slow start, because I thought that they were going to be the ones to beat in the beginning of the season.
I was there with you.
And now they're kind of picking it back up, which is fantastic for them. But Harden is, he didn't make the All-Star. He's averaging, 26 and 11 or something like that. And I think that's a testament to him being able to convert himself into whatever system he's being put into. So I do think that the Nets didn't have enough time to breathe. I don't know if it was a sense of urgency, because Harden and Durant were kind of in the tail end of their primes, I guess you could say. So you would have to kind of see where Kyrie fits into it. Only 20 games together. What could have been, but what never was. And I don't think it's that much of a failure. But it definitely is going to be given that kind of title for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny, because in my head, it was always going to be the ego part of it. It was never going to be the talent perspective, because obviously they're all very talented. It's just a matter of like,
and I think
who
it
was
should be
going to
noted.
crack first.
This should be noted. I mean, after KD got traded, Kyrie was saying he's glad that KD got out of that situation, which kind of leaves the thought maybe it's the Nets organization that really was the downfall of it. Not so much them.
It's Kyrie who's
but
I'm like, I mean, I get if the rumors are true about the championship stipulation for his next contract, I do kind of see a little bit of where he's coming from, because that is kind of undue pressure for a team in general. But in the same sense, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, you got to look at it from the perspective of the team. They went all out to bring in this trio of guys that were supposed to guarantee a championship.
And Ben Simmons is still there, standing alone.
I mean, I'm swinging over to you actually, Jared, because I'm kind of curious on your thoughts. You did kind of mention that you do think they are the big losers of the trade, which is understandable. Obviously, when you trade away a superstar and you get pieces back, it's understandable to be the loser in the trade, because they always say best player is always the winning team, right? So I'm curious, do you kind of see Joe Tsai and the Brooklyn Nets kind of building something that could be something bigger in the future? Is this one of those moves where, because we've seen the Brooklyn Nets, they've done this before, you know what I mean? At one point they did it, and then they kind of threw everything out the window and then brought in the worst, probably oldest starting five in the history of the NBA with the Kevin Garnett experiment. But they've also done it where, they move all these things and get three guys like Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. So do you think that this is a sign of better things to come for the Brooklyn Nets, or is this kind of going to be one of those swinging the other way moments?
No, I like the way you brought that up. I was looking at what they received. They have 5 first-round picks from 2023 to 2029. And then they have 2 second-round picks in 2028 and 2029. I mean, you package that together with just maybe one player, you could probably get a superstar out of that. And I think, as it's been
I
proven,
mean, it literally
when you give
got them Durant,
five
got
first round picks, when you get 5 first round picks or 5 picks and a couple players, you can get Rudy Gobert. You know, I mean, like, let's be real about it. Like, I think they're setting themselves up for success in a sense of grabbing all these picks and getting as many things as you possibly can to lure people into that market of releasing one of their big names. Don't ask me who they're going to chase, because I mean, there's always speculation of anything. And I think, and at this point in the league, we had talked about it off pod. It's like, remember when nobody made trades? Now everybody's going to make a trade, and everybody's making
like
moves.
literally
So,
just
like,
trades to make trades yesterday. There was something I was like, what are we even doing?
There's some
here?
people
Like,
you think, like, yeah, they're never going to get this. But I never thought Kevin Durant was going to go to Brooklyn in the beginning. I mean, he had like no reason to be there. He could have went to anywhere else, been good. And, you know, playing along Kyrie was like kind of like with the way Kyrie was at that point in the league. So, I mean, the fact that they can pull a big name like that, or pull 2-3 big names that you, like we were just talking about, like, I don't put it out of the picture that they're going to pull at least I say at least one to help rebuild their core. Because I'm looking at their depth chart right now. Should they retain everybody? You got Dinwiddie, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry. Cam Thomas has been playing amazing basketball out there, dropping 40-point games?
there was like a lot of flopping yesterday against the Bulls, but it's not what this is about.
That's not what it's about.
Cam Thomas did the Thanos things, like, fine, I'll do it myself. Everything was like,
I was laughing because there was somebody who was like the Bulls can't get back in this game no matter how bad Cam Thomas is trying to give it to them, because he literally he was like driving like over and over and like kept trying to draw fouls but flopping like a mother lover. Anyway, throwing it over back to you, Jared. Sorry, excuse me.
No, yeah, but I think they have a lot of pieces in regard of, like, these players are not superstar players. They are great supporting cast. So you bring in a big name that can play alongside. These people are going to put up numbers. Dinwiddie did it when he was in Brooklyn first, and then when he was with Luka. You know, Seth is a great shooter. Cam Thomas showing that he can be in his own. Ben Simmons is just Ben Simmons. We don't know ever what we're going to get with him. Joe Harris is a great shooter. You know, you have like people like Royce O'Neal. And all these players play into the fact that they have a good core of role players. Now they can trade for the players that will make this team go up and beyond, I would say, or give them a superstar or two that will say, hey, when times get tough, I know the ball is supposed to be in my hands, but other than that, I know I can trust the players around them, because for the rest of the season, all these players are going to get game time, game experience, learn how to lead, learn how to score, learn how to run the system. So when these two superstars come in, it's a free flowing machine, and they're going to hit the ground running. Not like, oh my God, we're going to figure it out because I've never been on the court, you know.
Yep.
You're muted, Nolan.
You're muted. Nolan, you're muted.
Very reminiscent of the Warriors from 19 and 20, where they gave Poole and all those boys kind of room to grow, and then once they got the stars back,
I agree.
I was saying yesterday, I mean, and I know it was against my Bulls, and you know, it may seem like I'm reading into it too much, but just looking at the pieces that they have, first and foremost, they're going to be a huge trade market team in the next couple of years, because they have so many wing players that fill the needs of, I mean, every team in the league. I mean, they have shooters, they have defenders, and just thinking about the possibility of like an all defensive lineup with Ben Simmons, Mikal Bridges, freaking Nick Claxton.
Claxton is
Royce
potential
O'Neal,
defensive player of the year as well.
Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, they have so many wings that like can switch 1 through 5 essentially. Like, it's just crazy, because I was looking at this team and I was like, talk about a new age version of a team. And when you got shooters like Utah and Joe Harris, like, and Seth Curry, like, they just have everything. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I still think that I'm going to hold my hot take that they have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs, whether or not people want to believe that they're going to be.
Guys, because after you kind of brought it up yesterday when we were discussing it, do you think, maybe not this year, do you think this team has the ability to potentially pull off a championship run like the 04 Pistons? where there's no complete star on the team, but it's a defensive-minded group who can score when needed. Like you said, they have them spot up 3-and-D shooters. Claxton is crushing it down low. You still have Ben Simmons, who's going to be able to facilitate very easily. Maybe one piece away. Maybe what if John Wall signs with them or Reggie Jackson as a scorer just for them once they get the buyouts going.
I'm going to say this right now. I made the call yesterday. I think they look very reminiscent of what the Celtics are doing now. So, very defensive-minded, young guys who just scrap and scrape for everything. If Cam Thomas can continue kind of being that scorer that he is, and they can kind of mix in between the defensive lineups and the three-point lineups, like I would say in the next 2 or 3 years, yeah, for sure, they could be at least a top 3 seed in the East, even without getting a trade, because you just need one breakout year from a guy like Mikal Bridges or Ben Simmons getting back into form, and they're right there. Like, they have some very good pieces. Like, I think Mikal Bridges, I mean, for me personally, I wanted him super bad on the Bulls to get traded. So I'd imagine like he's going to be a hell of a star for that team, in my opinion. But actually, going to move the conversation a little bit. We spent a lot of time talking about the Nets, but there were a lot of other trades that went down. So, I mean, besides the obvious, we did just talk about one big winner. I'm going to throw it over to you first, Nolan. Who's kind of your other like pseudo winner for the trade deadline, or pseudo winners if you have multiple?
My initial kind of thought regarding
it can be team or player regarding
in ranking for the top 3 teams that I think bolstered the best. Suns 1. I'm actually giving Clippers and Warriors 2 and 3. The Clippers, they picked up Eric Gordon, who's a known scorer. They needed some guy like that. They were able to get Plumlee. They were offsetting Reggie Jackson, who's been very inconsistent with them. I think the biggest thing for them is they have the core pieces.
And Bones Highland.
Yeah, they did just get Bones Highland. They have the core pieces. You have now this guard in Highland that can facilitate, can score off the dribble, but he's not ball dominant. You still have Kawhi and PG if they ever stop being injury managed. And now you have Plumlee, who is actually a very versatile big man off the bench to easily replace Zubac. So I think that's going to pay off in dividends for them.
Plumlee's been, I mean, this year he's been great, man.
It's weird because last year he was like that. He was like the steal of the free agency pickups for fantasy because he would give you all across the board everything you needed, and he wasn't a big shooter, so his percentages for a field goal were high. Warriors, the only reason I put the Warriors up there is because they didn't lose anything big. They lost Wiseman, who has been mainly a big disappointment for them. He can grow to be something different elsewhere.
Another guy the Bulls didn't get. Okay.
But they got Gary Payton back. He hasn't been doing too much this season, crazy, but he has low minutes as well on Portland, so they can bring him back into the system as the off-the-bench two-way player. Then they also got Kevin Knox, who's not necessarily known to do much, but he is kind of a good stretch forward off the bench for them. They're keeping their core guys. I think it's still going to be paying off pretty well for them, especially if they do kind of find their stride back again, because Clay is absolutely on a tear right now with Steph being injured. So once they come back from All-Star break, I think it's going to be
they
big
actually
time.
didn't get Kevin Knox because
I thought they did.
I thought he got routed. He got routed to the Trailblazers in the trade that got them Gary Payton.
Because I thought they just sent the 5 second rounds to the Trailblazers.
Yeah, I did not even realize because I know I saw they might route him, but yeah, they routed him to the Trailblazers.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, you still got Gary Payton. Knox was the second part. He was the step down of the additions.
Well, I would say I went to the Warriors game when Steph and Clay weren't playing. And the young core that they have in Ty Jerome and DiVincenzo and everybody,
Kuminga, they're all balling.
They feel that role very well. When we went, DiVincenzo freaking went off.
DiVincenzo's nice.
Was playing. Ty Jerome was balling.
I was surprised the Bucks gave him up.
And Anthony Lamb, these names that you're going to see in the third tier here of the depth chart.
I think people forget that
it's ridiculous.
that what is it? When you just said his name, Jonathan Kuminga is a baller, but like he was like what, second overall, third overall, whatever pick he was.
He was pretty high.
Oh no, actually he went up, but he was ranked as a top 3 player, and he like I honestly think if he's on a younger team like the Thunder, he'd be like rookie of the year status. So I think it's crazy.
When everybody else was out and it was just Jordan Poole and him, like they were just scoring like no other. I mean, so I
did want to know also,
additions.
Suns got Darius Bazley, who is a good, solid stretch forward.
I like him a lot. Yeah,
he's defensive minded, gets a couple points here and there, but focuses on the rebound and defensive end. So I'm glad that he kind of got away from OKC that was underutilizing him because they can. So
damn, that was an underrated pickup for them too. To have him off the bench, it's a nice piece.
So we'll see. But I think those are my top 3 that really stood out to me as winners. Lakers, I'll give them honorable mention. They were able to kind of dish off Westbrook and get some good core guys who hopefully can make a push with them later. But, I'm not going to – I'm
give you boys credit, man. I think they actually were graded as the highest grade for trade line deals.
So I think Rob Pelinka, I give him a lot of crap, but – considering once Kyrie was off the table, I think he did the best he could with the pieces that he was able to acquire. So it's going to be exciting to see.
I think literally every small piece that, like, smaller trade pieces that, like, the Bulls fans were clamoring for, the Lakers got. Like, literally every single one of them. Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Mo Bamba, like, 3 guys that, like, God, that would have been great if we had those guys on the team.
But I really wanted a 3-and-D, but I guess bolstering the offense. Mo Bamba, like you mentioned before off the pod, he is a defensive-minded big man who can help. So we'll kind of see how it goes. I think their first game together technically will be tomorrow, so fingers crossed. But we have 26 games left and not a lot of time. So
you're telling me. Swing it over to you, Jared. Who is your big winner of the free or trade deadline?
I mean, we're all going to agree that the Suns are probably number 1 in this.
Yeah. So besides them,
I'm going to have to agree with Nolan on the Clippers point. Like, just the pieces that they release and the pieces that they get, like, it's basically upgrading, in my opinion. In that they get consistency, and you get more people to support your superstars, basically, is what it comes down to. And the way the Clippers are, I mean, you don't even have Paul George and Kawhi scoring like over 30 right now. And they're still in games or winning games. And so just to add like that little supporting cast of the gritty players to help them along the way, that I 100% agree with Nolan. That
and if the buyout happens, they can sign Westbrook, and he's a friend of PG.
But you know what's the funny part? You know who I think? I thought the Jazz kind of got a good look.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz let his contract run
deadline
out.
too. You know what I mean? Because I was looking at that, and you get Westbrook,
he's going to do something big in the next couple of years.
Damian Jones, like, and then you add that to already the Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Markkinen, like that core group, and then they can go small.
He's trying really hard to bottom out. Danny,
but even think of it this way:
he's trying really hard.
With the pieces you have now, let's say you decide
really hard and they couldn't.
What if they re-sign Westbrook next season for a lower contract? They trade off the number 1 round pick because they know who's going to be the number 1 round pick next season. They can get another star, and then you already have Westbrook as the core. You already have Larry Markkinen. You can pick up a star. I think
Westbrook's supposed to get bought out though.
They rumored it. They don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's been rumored that they're trying to buy him out.
I would say they're probably going to bottom out because if Danny Ainge really, really wants to get that pick, there's no point in keeping a Westbrook around for that because Westbrook ain't going to not try to win some games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like for me, I thought Utah did a good job. Got stuff in this trade. I know it's like Damian Jones hasn't been everything. We know what JTA can do when he's given the opportunity. I feel like he didn't get as much an opportunity in LA as he did. I mean, when he was with the Warriors, everybody looks good because you get a lot of good looks. But when he didn't have Steph and Clay, like he still looked good. Like I liked him as a player. I just wish he got more. So, and they got a 2027 first round pick out of it. I mean, that definitely helps them in that regard. And I would say my third would be probably the Lakers. It would have been the Lakers. Like, had to be with the amount that we were able to deal with for what we got.
Yep.
I mean, I like Nolan said, give Rob Pelinka a lot of shit, but I mean, he made something out of nothing, and the players that literally are gonna help roll their way.
It could just be our tinfoil hat on right now. We could just be like, you know, just saying it because like this is exactly what could have happened, and he did it because that's what was left for us. But at the same time, it looks nice on paper. It definitely looks nice on paper.
It really does.
And then you could be on the other end of it where you're Keone, who wanted all these players, he didn't get shit. So
yeah, I mean, they didn't even try. That was
we're gonna be real.
It was one thing if they tried, but they didn't even try.
And also, I did want to give a little East credit because I totally forgot about these two trades that happened. Knicks picking up Hart for Reddish. So you're getting a production player on the Knicks that's played with Brunson before in Villanova.
Kinda,
yeah, and he's a two-way player as well. And then Raptors acquiring Podol.
That was a
big one.
That was
you
a
have
sneaky big move.
Fred.
Yeah.
I forgot who their two is, but you got OG still there. You got Siakam,
Gary
and
Trent.
Podol. Gary Trent. There you go. That's a nice starting lineup to get the Raptors back in it.
I'm actually very surprised that Anunoby wasn't moved. I mean, it seemed
I think
like
they valued him very high.
Yeah,
it was hard.
I mean, obviously, I think we all did.
Actually, I have a question once you kind of finish your portion, but go.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I was going to say is my big winner, actually, that nobody mentioned, was actually the Nets. I'm going to say that because I think Josiah got value for the moves that he made between the Kyrie and Kevin Durant deals. He got a lot of great young pieces. Like I said, really like Mikal Bridges. I really like them getting Cam Johnson. I think that there will be fantastic fits with Ben Simmons if Ben Simmons can ever kind of figure out his shtick right now. They have a lot of good, solid young wings. Like just watch the way that they played yesterday. It's a very passionate group of guys. I mean, when you have a young team, they're always very very passionate. I think that's one real good thing. They make it very entertaining to watch. So I think they'll sneakily be like a pretty scary team to face in the future. In the very near future, I'll say. And I'm holding hopes that they'll be better in the next few years. Also, shout out to my guy Spencer Dinwiddie. I think he was another winner because he never actually wanted to leave Brooklyn. It was a sad day when they got rid of him. So I think it was a good way to kind of take that step to like healing between him and the Brooklyn organization. Yeah, exactly. So and it's like everybody always says, like, what could have been if they just let the kind of Dinwiddie, D'Lo, what was his name that's on the Cavs now?
Allen?
No.
Jared Allen?
Oh, Jared Allen, but the other one, the wing player. What's his name? He's a starting small forward for them, and his name escapes me.
Okoro?
No, he was drafted by the Cavs, I think.
Okoro's on the bench now. Their small forward is now
Karis LeVert.
Karis LeVert, there we go. Yep. Yeah. So Karis LeVert, like everybody was like, oh, what could have been with the Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Dinwiddie, D'Lo kind of Nets iteration. But I'm glad that they got him back. I was happy for him. So I said he was probably my second winner for the entire thing. And then my third was the Lakers, man. I give your team some love. I think they filled a lot of holes. They got LeBron the pieces.
And they filled the hole in my heart, though. That's the question.
They didn't get LeBron the pieces he wanted. I should say reverse that statement. But I was gonna say they got LeBron some pieces to kind of at least give him more.
That's something.
Make him a little bit happier. So I think that for me personally, they got a lot of solid pieces that were underrated.
So I know we're trying to keep this short. But what do you think the Rockets are trying to do right now? Because I'm looking at that's one team that I was kind of looking at. And,
they're going for Wembanyama.
That's
kind of what it is. But you look at they send John Wall. They take John Wall back. They pick up Danny Green, and
but he is being bought out though, for sure. John Wall is getting bought out.
Oh, he never wants to be there anyway. It's he
has a small contract, so it's not like they're buying out very much either. I think he was basically a minimum, right? This year.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of looking at the Rockets, and I'm just besides playing for Wembanyama, some of the moves just don't make sense to me.
I'll say this: I think they're going to have a ton of cap room. They got a lot of expiring contracts with the deals that they made. They have a lot of picks, but most importantly, they're playing for that play-in spot. And they have, what is it? Jalen Smith?
Jalen
Green.
No,
Jalen
the one they picked up this year. They drafted this year.
I think
he's a power forward. Yeah, I was like Jalen Smith. Is that a Jalen Smith or Jaden Smith? Jabari Smith. There you go.
Jabari Smith.
Yeah, it's just something Smith.
Will
but
Smith.
anyway,
Will Smith.
Jabari Smith. He looks solid this year. I think they're trying to do the whole kind of like how the Thunder were doing, where they weren't really playing them as much. There was a lot of rest management type stuff so that they could possibly get down to lower seeds. But I don't think they're in a better position than a lot of the other teams that are really tanking for Wembanyama. But they're definitely trying. I think once they lost Daryl Morey, man, they kind of lost the oomph to make these better deals. So I don't know. That's just my perspective on it. But anyway, last little segment before we kind of move on or conclude this entire after the buzzer segment. Nolan, any big losers for you that stuck out, or is there anybody who who didn't make any deadline deals?
There's this team over in Illinois. What are you doing?
Jared, you have to have a different loser. You can't pick the same one.
I think there's a lot of teams that were very stagnant in this trade deadline.
I think they only said three teams didn't make deals. Was it the Heat, the Cavs, and the Bulls?
I don't think the Kings did either, did they?
I think the Kings made a small deal.
Well, anything of note,
Actually, no, you're right.
Maybe Spurs. Just for cash.
Oh, yeah. Oh, maybe it was Kings. Maybe it was the other way. Maybe it was Kings.
Gotcha.
Cavs
added Kessler, Edwards. And
So maybe it was just the Cavs and the Bulls that didn't make any moves.
Maybe it's just the Bulls.
I mean, Cavs are what, number 3 in the East right now?
Whatever. The Cavs didn't make moves either. They're losers.
Yeah, but what's their record?
Well,
how much?
Memphis didn't make any moves, did they?
Suck.
No, they did. Memphis did make.
No, Memphis did.
Yeah, they did. They were in the 3-team trade, no?
They tried a lot harder to make a lot bigger deals too, but they did not get that going. Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I wouldn't say there was any losers because, for the most part, a trade is a trade. Mm-hmm. You're getting what you give. Nets, obviously, they're looking at the future, but they're giving up their right now, which is never a bad thing, depending on what your situation is. The moment they had to trade Kyrie was kind of like the writing on the wall.
Yep.
So I don't think that's really considered a loser. I don't know. I mean, Magic maybe? Magic didn't really do too much other than getting Pat Bev, who I'm not sure if they're buying him out or not. We got Mo Bamba from.
I think they might actually be playing him. Unfortunately,
I don't know if that's necessarily a loser because they're very guard heavy. But at least that kind of opens up space for Bol to get more minutes. But we're gonna see. I thought the same thing. Why Pat? By default, I guess I'll give Bulls.
Yeah,
because they just didn't make a move, which could be good, could be bad. Who knows? We'll see what they ride with for the rest of the season. They could get Westbrook or John Wall in a buyout, which could be helpful.
God, even if we don't get Westbrook, can we please get John Wall? Somebody, please.
So, we'll take a look. But those are, I guess, the main two teams. Magic
there are a lot
and
of
Bulls.
big names on the buyout market, or not big names, excuse me. There are a lot of names in the buyout market that could potentially help some teams. We got Will Barton about to get bought out. Serge Ibaka is getting bought out. John Wall, Russell Westbrook, a couple guys who might get bought out. So there'd be a lot of random names that could help some championship contenders.
Actually, there is a loser, and this is a very definitive loser. Portland Trail Blazers, if you're not going to do anything for Lillard, please trade him to a contender. Because are like, there's a difference between trying to make moves and then deciding Cam Reddish is the answer for our team right now. We're going to get Cam Reddish.
I did like the Thibault signing.
Man.
I thought
I like the Thibault signing.
Thible's
That- what's that
okay,
mean?
but you're giving up
But-
Gary Payton Jr. in the trade deadline. You're giving up Josh Hart in the trade deadline.
Kevin
Two
Hart?
players
They gave up Kevin Hart.
what?
He's the
Two
tallest guard in
players
the
that are
league.
very-
Philly traded Kevin Hart to where?
I hate it here.
But I'm just saying, man. I don't know what's going on in Lillard's head right now, but you got to get this man some help or get him out
I
of there.
know,
'Cause
bro.
he said he's wanted to be loyal to you, but I don't think anyone would blame him for requesting a trade right now.
Is it just like I'm just surprised that they've never decided to like move Nurkic? Like, are we still riding with Nurkic is solid at this point? Like, is he the number 2 guy? I don't know. This is just so weird to me. Anyway, throwing it over to you, Jared. Any big losers that kind of stuck out to you? You have to pick a different name. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You can pick the same.
No. I mean, I think we're all going to agree the Bulls. Even you were mad that the Bulls didn't make moves for anybody. So,
Bruh.
I mean, what's
telling me.
that? But
Not
you
even
know,
a small
I know
move?
I know this is the Wembanyama sweepstakes, and I look at everything, but the Pistons are fucking killing me. What the hell are you going to do with James Wiseman? He's already proven, that. I mean, it's clear what they did. They're just taking players that they can offload for the Wembanyama sweepstakes, and I think they're either the bottom
Bojan end up
of the
staying?
league
I
or
forget.
one.
Bojan did. Oh,
Because I know.
Nope, I don't think so.
Bojan.
I thought he
Wait,
ended
let
up
me look.
staying.
Oh no, he's there. He's there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
they
was
did.
just saying,
'Cause they were
I
looking
thought
for
they
like
did.
at least a first round for him or something like that.
Yeah,
And they gave
But
up
I mean,
Sadiq
like-
Bey, who
yeah. And
Is
no,
like,
that's
bro,
that's
is like
what I was
OG.
getting.
He's
Sadiq-
like OG.
I like Sadiq. No, and I like
I'm
him.
surprised
Yeah.
they got
The
rid
grind,
of
the grind.
I
and the
wanted
way he
him.
could score.
Yeah, with the
and-
Bulls. Yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
honorable
there we go
mention.
again.
Good luck to the Hawks now because they got him, so that can help, right? Right?
Mhm.
And that was another thing I was kind of surprised. Surprised that they didn't at least trade one of those guys because I thought maybe either Trey Young or John Collins would be not a Hawk after the trade deadline, but guess not.
I agree.
I know there were
agree with
rumors,
that.
like there were rumors for a little bit that the Bulls and the Hawks talked a Trey for Levine swap, which I was just like, I was like, I don't know that one. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, and I don't know. I mean, while Nolan was talking, I was kind of scrolling up and down this, and I mean, if I had to pick a third that actually made trades, I guess you would say, I'm not big on the Hornets output in this.
I don't think the
losing
Hornets
Mason
are big on the
Plumlee,
Hornets either.
I mean, you get Reggie Jackson, who's hit or miss. We know Reggie Jackson can score. Like he does Reggie Jackson.
Another
things.
buyout candidate,
But as-
that guy. I was like,
Yeah, exactly. And as of
Reggie
late,
Jackson.
like Nolan brought it up, Reggie Jackson hasn't been doing crap.
What? They
And
got
then
3
you get
second-round
Mah-
picks and Svi Mikhailiuk.
Yeah, and you get Svi, and Svi was an ex-Laker, Piston, or whatever. He's a shooter,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, you're not really getting much out of that. So, in my opinion, yeah, I would say if I had to pick a third, then it would probably be the Hornets.
It's crazy how good he looked on the Lakers, and then when he kind of left the Lakers.
No,
like,
dude, I loved him when he was on the Lakers. I wanted
Yeah,
him to play
then-
more. I couldn't say his last name to save my
had some
life, but I
bounce,
was
too.
like, just play.
Yeah, it's funny because I just imagine
He was like, he's weirdly athletic. Like, that's the weird thing about it. He's weirdly athletic. He does not.
I
Love
imagine the
athletic white
guys-
boys on the Lakers, man.
I just imagine the guys that are on your team now being those guys that like they look good on the Lakers, and then when they're not on the Lakers with LeBron, like Austin Reeves, like Max Christie, I'd be
No,
curious to see
Austin
if
Reeves looked good.
if they
Like,
look-
did
See
you
him
see
cross over
shake-
Giannis
Did you see him shake Giannis yesterday?
My
bro?
man. Hillbilly
No,
Kobe.
and the finish, and the way he finished, like
Yeah.
hold the body off with the full extension. Like I saw that, I was like, "Damn, okay, I see you, Austin Reeves." Mini Caruso. I missed that.
Wow.
guy.
Actually, before we kind of take off, I wanted to ask you guys a quick question.
Mhm.
I don't know, in the past 2 years or so, I don't know if it's just me or if I've been oblivious. Has the NBA moved
Blue Chew. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, wow. Has the NBA moved more towards kind of like how the NFL is, where they're valuing picks a lot harder than they used to? Because I feel like there was a plethora of picks that was shifted this whole trade deadline last year, especially with the haul that Utah got. Are picks being valued a lot higher now? Is it because they think that the youth can kind of move into where they need it when they draft them, or they're just be able to move them as pieces?
It's funny because I saw like a kind of crazy statistic of like how the average age of teams has dropped by like 5 years in the last like 2 decades or something like that. It was like something I forgot what the actual timeline was. But literally, yeah, like the average age of teams is now like around 24, 25. So it's interesting to me because obviously like we all grew up in the old heads era. So like there was a lot of guys who, you know, were a lot older on their teams than they are now. But I think, yeah, I mean, that definitely is, you're hitting the nail on the head with that one, because I think that teams are just looking at who can I get that's going to be like the next big thing in the future. And really
that's turned into Bronny and Bryce James.
Yeah. I mean, like Luka Doncic, like guys like that, when you look at him, Wembanyama, who's coming in right now, even the other guys that are in this draft that are coming out, I think a lot of people are like looking at like the last few drafts where you've had like maybe 3 or 4 names from each draft that are like franchise guys now. I mean, look at the Ja Morant draft with, was it Williamson? Was that one? No, that was a different one. But I was like, even like the one before that where they had Luka and Trey and like all those guys, like there are some franchise changing dudes in like the top picks. So
people forget OKC still has Chet Holmgren coming back next season too.
Yep. Oh, bruh. If they get Wembanyama,
nah, they won't.
The weird twin tower thing they're gonna have there,
That
but
would be
still
scary.
Yeah, Chet and Wembanyama will be pretty scary, but yeah, I'm so curious, man. I honestly, I feel like there's going to be like a weird team that gets like the odds just fall in their favor and they get their ping pong ball. Like I just feel it in my nuggets that it's going to be the Nuggets. No, I'm just joking. No, like
my Nuggets.
I just feel like there's going to be a weird team that ends up getting him.
Yeah. To talk about Nolan's question, 52 picks, like either first round or second round picks in this trade deadline. I know you just counted them. 52 total picks.
Wow.
Like, wow. I mean, I agree with you. You know, in the last couple of years, like, I get it. You know, people want to value it. And when you're trying to build teams, there, like you said, we're old heads in the sense of like, we want players. We don't want picks. But I think, it is kind of more an NFL kind of thing. Like they're valuing the bodies, they're valuing the youth, they're valuing the athleticism of that kind of thing. So going forward into it, I mean, I like the Kevin Durant trade. You're going to get 2 great able-bodied players now, but you're giving away like 7 picks for him. Basically, you're giving the 5 first round and the 2, and like in the long run, when you think about it, when you're looking to keep a team or build a team, you want to have the option of getting the best players in the league, because you never know, coming out of high school, coming out of college, coming out of like pro somewhere else, that these kids are going to be legit. Like you're going to find a Wembanyama and you're going to have that first round, first pick or something, you know? So going forward with that, I would say like, I can see why players are doing it. Why organizations
I would almost say like
it.
Counter, but not really. Not counterpoint. I guess it's more an additional point. I do think it's not necessarily just the players, but it's the commodity. It's the asset. It's the ability to be able to trade for these big names in the market. Because, like we said, trade deadline is the new free agency. Like it's when you get the players that you want. So literally, like stocking up on picks is like your way. Like I think everybody looked at what Danny Ainge did with the Celtics and like what he's doing now with the Jazz, and they were like, okay, that's the formula right there.
Like it works.
Get like 100 picks for the next 5 years and use them to get every player that you've ever wanted. Like literally,
basically, that's what it is.
That's the blueprint.
Basically, that's what it is.
Wow, this ran a lot longer than I thought it was, but look at us. We had a full-on, this reminds me of the old days of the old OG after the buzzer. But
we talk about basketball, like, Trey, we can talk all day about basketball.
Damn right.
We break down every single team or whatever happens.
Yep.
I mean,
just for future reference for anybody who is listening to the pod today, like I said, something we're trying out for the next month or so. If you guys like it, we'd love the feedback on kind of this newer format where we are still doing, you know, our Athletes Anonymous. But like I said, this will be like Athletes Anonymous presenting after the buzzer. So it's our brand new kind of additional sports segment. We will also be having the Fifth Down coming back, our football segment. It'll be post Super Bowl. So like I said, we'll see how this goes, see how you guys react to this, and we will still be having our post-credit segments as well. But yeah, thank you for the love. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for checking in on us with this episode of After the Buzzer now, I guess, because it's
brought to you by Athletes Anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and the Poi N Soy podcast.
Yeah, there we go. It's like the umbrella.
You gotta have the cheers, man. You gotta have the cheers.
But anyway, boys, where can the people find you? Starting off with you, Nolan.
You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at NolanKYT, NOLANKYT.
And Jared, where can the people find you?
I'm on Instagram and Twitch at JShirai. Come check out the pod. I'm in stream. We
spod.
We stream. We play. We talk a lot of smack to each other.
We about to do that. We're
watching mine.
He's like, we're about to do that for about 20 minutes right after this.
20 minutes. Maybe one game.
Yeah.
And if you jump in, they just
preloading it right now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then I am on Twitter at JShirai808.
Right on. And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at KONE. That's KYOHKNEE. I will be trying to post a little bit more on the Twitch. But as always, it has been a pleasure. It has been a joy from all of us here at Poi N Soy.
Good vibes and love, everybody.
Bang to bang.
Shoot, spot on.